Hi, welcome to ACS Composite. My name is Joseph, and today we're looking at lug nuts for your Corvettes. We have here our new set of C8 lug nuts for obviously the 2020 Corvette. The OEM car, or the factory car, is delivered with silver or chrome lug nuts. So this is really an eyesore if you have the carbon flash twin spoke wheels. So we went ahead and basically created our own version of this lug nut. One of the things we'll notice right away is it is a two-piece design, and it's got a cover on it. And GM uses this lug nut across the board. I mean, I think we find this on Camaros and most of the trucks. It's got a 22 millimeter head, and if I'm not mistaken, an M15 thread on the inside. We've basically sourced out the same thing in solid black, and we've dropped the cover. Over the years, we always find that the cover itself will wear out, even fall and get damaged quite a bit. I could see inconsistencies in it just by the way it's stamped. So we go to solid casted nut, and then it's powder coated black. So basically it'll ensure a long finish, and most importantly, it'll blend into the wheel. To install these, we have our tool, which is highly recommended. This is our 22 millimeter nylon sleeve tool. And basically what this does is it will protect your wheel and your lug nuts as you install them, whether it's our black wheel lug nuts or the OEM ones. And what it does is basically torque the wheel in a different manner. Most sockets will always use the edges, or they'll have like sharp edges on the inside. This one's been relieved, so when it goes in, it's actually torquing the wheel by the side. So this is how it's able to save it. On the inside tip, you'll notice there's another nylon sleeve, and then obviously on the exterior, we have another nylon sleeve to protect the wheel if you were to basically wobble it in and out. And finally, the most important part is the 4-inch extension. This is done so that you can basically extend out, whether it's your breaker bar when you break them loose or your torque wrench. So we've seen it more than once. Customers just buy the lug nuts, they go to torque them, take their torque wrench, a standard 19 or 22 millimeter socket for this case, go to torque it, and they'll scratch your fender line. So that's really a disaster that we hate hearing. So we always recommend 4-inch extension. If you don't buy ours, use yours. Just be careful on the edges. We're getting ready to swap out the lug nuts on our 2020 Corvette. This one has the carbon flash optional twin spoke wheels. So obviously the black lug nuts will really complement the wheel really well. We'll be using a extension to basically break loose the nuts. So this is a 4-inch extension, and we're just gonna break them loose, raise the car, swap them out, retorque them, and finally drop the car. There's a reason why we like or recommend the extension, and it's really for the clearance. So I'm just using this as an example, but the second we put it in, we're hitting the fender. And this happens at all the angles. So basically, first time installer, when you get to the car, you're excited, you might jump in, but we've seen it more than once. We get a call and guys are scratching the fenders. So really a big problem, and an easy fix is just to use a 4-inch extension. So not only are we shifting the tools away from the car, but we're also protecting the wheel. So we'll notice here it's a pretty tight fit. We have a nylon sleeve, which is hard plastic. And on the inside, we have another insert also. So that basically rests up on the lug nuts. The OEM ones are aluminum capped, so a little harder to see scratches compared to a black powder coat, but it is a major eyesore. Plus, over the years, I always see these wear out and eventually the cap fall off, and then they need to be maintained. So the extension, that's how we fix it. Fits right in. We have our breaker bar, so we're basically just gonna break them loose. I've set the car with the handbrake on so it doesn't wobble, put a lock on the rear wheel since I will be jacking it up. And all 5 lug nuts are loose. Next is gonna be to raise the vehicle. I've already pre-installed our jacking puck on the car, so this basically ensures that when I put my lift pad on, I don't damage the rocker. So I'll lift it a couple of inches just to loosen it up. So you could basically tackle one lug nut at a time with the car on the ground. I just like to remove the weight and make sure I reset everything and retorque everything in my star pattern. So it's not really critical, but probably the more thorough way to do it is to just get the weight off the wheels and swap them all out one at a time. So we give you the packaging tray. We'll notice we actually give you an extra one. So the whole set is 20 plus 1. So we give you the extra one just in case you either lose one, damage one, And over the years, whenever you get your car serviced, it does happen at dealers that they'll misplace one. So it's always good to have an extra one. So that's why there is the extra plus one. I'm not a fan of impact guns or electrical tools. Yes, it does speed up the process a little bit, but really, will 5 minutes really change our life as we upgrade a little mod like this? So I've hand tightened all my lug nuts. Next up is to torque them to the right spec. So the big surprise here, if you've worked on Corvettes for the last, I guess, decade or even more for that matter, the torque spec was anywhere between 95 to 120. For the C8 Corvette, GM actually went to a bigger lug nut, which is a 22. And for that reason, the manual calls for 140 foot-pound of torque. So basically I have my torque wrench, putting on my sleeved extension. I've already preset, or I've done this before, so my torque wrench is already set to 140. And we're gonna tackle them in a star pattern. So basically, you're gonna start at noon, go to 7, go to 3, go to 10, and then end at 5. So hence the star pattern. I'm gonna do this twice. So I'm just doing a preliminary tightening of the lug nuts just to make sure the wheel sits properly on the disc brake. And now I'm starting over at noon, or the top position, and pushing down. I'm gonna do it again, just simply because I like to double check that I got my torque all the way through. Now it is a torque wrench, so the second you hear the click, that's when you stop. You don't want to over tighten, and you definitely do not want to under tighten. So we're done for this wheel. I'm gonna lower the car back down and do this for the other three.